Hey everyone, welcome back to Science 214. We are going to talk about your journal assignment today. So you will go into your learning module, module 1, go down to the journal assignment here. Now before you start, you're going to want to review the guidelines and rubric. Whenever you click on that, it should go to this page. And we kind of talked about this in the welcome video, but essentially you're going to choose a scientific topic for this particular project. The topic that you want to choose needs to be something that is happening in your community and is causing like inequity in your community, because that's what the overall directions are for your final project. So right now you're just going to select from one of the areas below, which we're going to get more into, and then you're going to address these questions, and you're going to submit this as a Word document. And if you need, a checklist, that's kind of what this rubric is for, to make sure that you've, covered everything that is going to be graded. Now, with that being said, we're going to kind of go over this journal assignment. So the first thing you're going to do is your topic, right? You're going to select your topic. And so whenever we talk about water quality, there's a whole bunch of different things that you could choose from. So these are just some examples that could be happening in your particular community. So anything from like PFAS contamination to nutrient pollution, heavy metals, you want to make sure that it's kind of like something that is either currently occurring or has occurred within like the past, 6 months. And you want to be very specific. You don't just want to say, oh yeah, I'm picking water pollution. Like, what is the specific contaminant? Same thing with air pollution, right? Like, air pollution is a wide topic, right? Like, you could be talking about anything from particulate matter to ozone. So you want to really narrow the focus to a specific air pollutant. Same thing with climate change. Climate change is a wide topic that impacts a lot of different things. So again, choose something, just one particular aspect of it. If you choose, climate change as your topic, you would only want to talk about maybe sea level rise. Or you might only want to talk about ocean acidification. You don't want to try and cover every single one of these, because that is very overwhelming and can be hard to do for your final topic. As far as energy, I get a lot of questions about this one. This one's probably the hardest one. When you are kind of looking at this, we're kind of looking at like, okay, how do people access energy? Like renewables versus non-renewables, or you might pick a particular energy to focus on, like nuclear power or maybe like solar power. Because there is inequities involved in access to energy. And then as far as like environment, what that one means is kind of like, okay, we're looking at issues like loss of biodiversity, deforestation, species that are becoming extinct. So that's how you can kind of, narrow these topics. Now, there is a list of resources that's at the bottom of this guidelines page. So if you were to click on that, it will give you examples and then some resources that you can use, because in your next module project, you're going to need to have 3 sources, like relevant sources for your topic. Now, these are not exhaustive, right? Like, you don't have to choose, these specific issues. Like, you can go and pick something that's different that may not be listed here. You just want to make sure that there's, enough academic research and resources to kind of help support your project. So kind of going back to this. So the kind of first section of your paper, you're going to talk about, what is your topic? You're going to give background information about it. You're going to make sure that there's relevant data. So for instance, if you're talking about like climate change, like you might want to talk about, okay, how did climate change begin, and like what's data that is showing that it's an issue in your area. What is it gonna, what problems is it gonna create? What inequities is it gonna create? The second part is the rationale. So why are you interested? You're going to give about 2 to 3 reasons about why you selected this particular topic. This section should be about 1 to 2 paragraphs. You're then going to look at how does your topic impact equity, social justice, and environmental justice. So for instance, the example I gave here, air pollution, is both a social justice issue and environmental justice issue, because air pollution causes a lot of health problems in people that are exposed to it. People that live in like low income communities a lot of times are exposed to more air pollution than people who live in more like affluent communities. So that's kind of how it's both social justice and environmental justice. The next portion is the explanation. So how would you communicate information about your topic to someone who is not familiar with the topic? So we're talking about like a brand new person, never heard this topic before. You're going to give a couple of examples of how you would communicate the information, and you're going to talk about the effectiveness of that example. So like one of the things I have right here is like, okay, like an email versus a newsletter. So maybe the newsletter is a better option versus the email. So if you're wondering like, okay, what does this look like when we put it all together? You will have access to this instructor example. So in this particular one, I chose fracking. I talked about why I chose it, why I'm interested in the topic, and as well as some data right here as far as like, okay, it can use a lot of water. We're already having trouble getting water. I talked about like the methane emissions from it. And then, I'm kind of answering, what are the issues that are caused by this particular issue? How am I going to communicate it to people? So I would talk about, I told them I would take them to visit a fracking well. I'd refer them to a documentary. How would I break down this concept? And then I have my references listed in APA format. So this is kind of like, you want to model yours after this. You definitely don't want to have like just a couple of sentences. Like most of the sections that you're answering, you want to have, like a paragraph for each one. So like for the description section, that's probably a paragraph. The number 2 is at least a paragraph. The impact, that's probably going to be 1 to 2 paragraphs. And then, the explanation might be a paragraph. So definitely we don't want to be like super brief with this. This also says you should use at least one credible source. So make sure that, you have looked at those project resources, or you gained a source from outside to kind of support your information that you're presenting. You can also always go to the Shapiro Library up here, and you can look there for any kind of topics that you're looking for. If you're unfamiliar with APA formatting, you can go to this Citing Your Sources guide, and it will show you how to do that as well. But, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. More than happy to help. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your journals.